Thanks so much, Kayla. I really appreciate the introduction. My name is Linwood Parker, and I've been in the real estate industry for 20 years. And then most recently, 18 of those selling real estate. In the last 2 years, I've been here at First National. So I've been through a lot on both sides, and I feel like that'll be a benefit to my borrowers. So on to you, Summer.
Thank you, Linwood. Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Louis, for having us. My name is Summer, and this year I celebrated in February 20 years in the mortgage industry. I grew up as a military kid, also known as a military brat, with both of my parents serving in the Air Force my entire childhood. I've worked for First National for going on 6 years, and I am located out of Eagle River, serving the Eagle River and Chugiak area, as well as I work closely with the Bethel community and helping their unique Alaskan homeownership needs. I'm happy to be here, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Great, thank you to all the panelists. And again, guests, thanks for joining us. One last thing I'll mention, today's webinar is being recorded. So if you wanted to go back and see some of that information, again, you can go to the same webpage on which you registered for that, which is FNB-Alaska/webinar. And so that, let's jump into it. Linwood, I'll begin with you with one of the frequently asked questions that we get, and that is, what is the benefit to borrowers of getting pre-qualified for a loan early in the home buying process?
Hey, Louis, that's a great question. I really appreciate you asking that one. And I really can't express enough how important it is to get pre-qualified. So in my previous life as a realtor, I kind of had an unwritten rule, and that was that you got one ride for free. And what I meant by that is that I would take people out one time to show them a house before I would show them out a house again, only because there's so many things that can happen. And if you'd let me explain a couple different scenarios, I'll try to make my point. So in our current market, if you've been looking for a little bit, you understand how important multiple offers are. And right now, if you do not have a pre-approval letter from your lender, whenever you put your offer in, I can almost guarantee you're going to be at the bottom of the pile. And being at the bottom of the pile is not where you want to be. You definitely want to be the offers that are considered. So being on the top and having a 90% letter is going to put you halfway there. The other thing it shows is that you're to your realtor that you're serious. Right? So realtors work on commission, and they don't want to be driving around with people that can't buy a home. So showing them that you're serious is another thing that really will help. Another problem that I've seen in the past is people will use these online mortgage calculators in order to figure out their mortgage payment. And what they don't realize is oftentimes that doesn't include their PITI payment. And so what PITI, it's an acronym that stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And so what they'll do is they'll go and they'll use their income, whatever they're figuring will be a payment that's comfortable for them. They'll go and land on a house. The agent will write an offer. The offer will get accepted. Now we need to go see a lender. And then they find out that the actual payment is $500 to $700 more than what they were anticipating. Now we got to have that conversation with your family, with your spouse. And let's be honest, with yourself, trying to figure out, can I make it work? Can I figure this out? This is the house. It checks all the boxes. This is the one that we want. And so you're having these really uncomfortable conversations with yourself down the road. And then that brings up the reality that we live in a world of monthly payment, not purchase price. So sure, everyone wants to say, hey, I would like a $500,000 house. Then we find out the reality is that we're going to have to put $25,000 to $100,000 down payment. And then we're going to have a $2,700 to $3,000 a month mortgage payment. And is that something that you can comfortably make every single month? So being able to realize what monthly payment this sets me up for, and is that comfortable for me to do every single month? Ups and downs, kids being sick, me being sick, is that something that's comfortable? And then another thing in the lending world that a lot of people don't realize when they're trying to pre-qualify themselves is we have a ratio. We'd like your housing ratio, your front end ratio to be somewhere around 28 to 30%. That would be just your house payment. And then your back end payment, so all of your debt, somewhere close to about 40%. A lot of people will say, oh, well, I can run this right up to the line, right? I can afford 60% of my income going to my mortgage payment. And that's not the reality of how that works. In speaking of that, with regard to income, the pandemic brought up this really interesting term that we didn't really have before, which was gig jobs. And so the gig jobs are Uber, DoorDash, Instacart, those kind of things. So now we have buyers that are working and they're making money, and they feel like, because I'm making this much money, that I should be able to afford this much house. And unfortunately, whenever you're a 1099 employee, we need to have a 2-year average of that income to be able to use it. So there's so many things, and I can go on and on and on, Louis, about why it's important to get pre-qualified. And I haven't even touched the surface, but those are some of the top reasons to be able to get pre-qualified.
Thank you, Linwood. That's some great insight there. Jim, I will turn to you next, and that is, what does a borrower need to complete the initial application process?
Yeah, thanks, Louis, and great job, Linwood, on telling us why that it's important to get that pre-qualification. As far as what you need to complete the initial process, we have a simple online application that you can access via First National's website, or you can always request a link from a loan officer if you're already working with one, and we can just email you a link to click. They'll send you right to the application portal. As far as documentation you need, typically we need the last 2 years W-2s with the last 2 pay stubs, along with 60 days of bank statements, and then, as Linwood referenced, if you have any other gig jobs, as he mentioned, we'll need, the sources of income from that, as far as pay stubs or 1099s, however you would be getting paid from those particular jobs. Self-employed borrowers are a little more in depth. If you're self-employed, you probably already know this, but business and personal taxes for the last 2 years are going to be important, as well as any applicable K-1s based upon your type of company that you run. Year to date and year end profit and loss and balance sheets will also be very important. That'll get us started and probably be able to get you a pre-approval out with that most times. And as we go through the application process, we would obviously ask for additional details or more information should we need it as we go along.
Thank you, Jim. Great info there. Kayla, I will turn to you next. After a borrower has completed the application, how do they choose which loan is best for them?
Thank you, Louis. Thank you. That is a great question. With so many loans out there, how do you know which one to pick? How do you know which one is the right one? Well, it all starts with the pre-qualification process, and where you're discussing your goals and your priorities with your loan officer, and you review the loan options that you actually qualify for so you can make an educated decision. Everyone is truly different, and the right loan really depends on your individual priorities. For example, do you have limited funds to work with? You're not required to put a 20% down payment. Some loans do offer a 0 or 3% down, but still have closing costs to consider. And some loans require specific inspections or tests that cost extra. And there's some loans that allow gift funds from qualified borrowers. So it's from qualified donors. So it's important to have that conversation if you have concerns. Are you concerned about payment shock? It's where your new mortgage payment is significantly higher than your current rent or housing costs. There's more to your monthly cost with a new home than just the mortgage payment. So it's important to communicate with the loan officer, again, if you have payment restriction issues or you need to stay within a certain budget. There's many more hot buttons. It's mainly important for you to bring up your questions, your concerns to your loan officer, so that you can have confidence in making a loan decision. And then, of course, after we have an in-depth conversation about your individual goals, your application, we can start to dive into specifics regarding the guidelines for different loan programs. It's very unlikely that your loan officer is just going to read off every loan in the book and leave it to you to work through all the details. That's exactly what we're here to help with. Plus, aside from loan program specifics, because there's so many nuances, the important thing for someone seeking a mortgage is to understand what is being considered for loan approval. Things like your credit profile. Some loans have minimum credit score requirements or might have stricter guidelines based on derogatory information. Maybe we should talk through that. Continuing income. My teammates touched on gig jobs previously. Did you know that it's a myth that you have to hold the same job for 2 years to qualify for a mortgage? The truth behind that is that we need to look at your last 2 years of employment in order to generally determine if you will be able to continue making enough income to support this mortgage payment for the 15, the 30-year commitment that you're making. And on that, income calculations vary based on different loan programs, as do documentation requirements. So communicate with your loan officer. Provide the documentations that we request so that we can have the best tools in our tool belt to give to you, so you can make an informed decision. Everyone is different. Priorities regarding home financing are unique to each individual. So my job as a loan officer is to ask and answer a lot of questions while considering the application details so that we can have confidence in discussing available loan options. I like to think of it as a Chinese checkers board, and we ask questions and we fill in the little marbles into each little section until we have an entire area full and we can talk about a loan program that you qualify for. So ask all the questions and communicate.
Thanks, Kayla. I love the Chinese checkers reference there. That's great. I will, one more reminder to our guests, we will be having a live question and answer session at the end. And so if there's something you'd like our panelists to answer, click that Q&A icon on your screen, type that in, and we'll be sure to get that. Summer, I'll direct the next question that we get to you, and that is, what can a borrower expect during the application and pre-approval process, and what are some common issues that we see for delays in that process?
That's also a great question. Thank you. As your loan officer, we serve as like a tour guide for the home buyer from pre-qualification all the way to closing. For us, setting proper expectations up front is vital to making sure that the loan process goes smoothly. When a buyer gets pre-qualified, the loan officer requests a lot of documentation, a lot of questions are answered up front to try to avoid any future delays. And then the way that the process as far as expectation works is once there is an agreed upon contract, you'll want to get that to your mortgage officer as soon as possible. Then we're going to be held to a lot of different timelines and dates that we want to meet so that your closing happens successfully and smoothly and on time. Once we have your contract, then we're going to ask for some updated documentation because most likely that initial paperwork, some of that has expired. So we do request updated items to submit your loan to processing and underwriting. It's important to provide documents all along the way as our processing team requests that all throughout the process. It's important to respond promptly to that. Any financial changes when it comes to delays, any financial changes during your loan process or even while you're pre-qualified can invalidate your paperwork and delay your closing. Once you're pre-approved or in the process of buying a home, a buyer will not want to change their credit, income, or debt situation so that we can maintain what we've got to work with. If there is a need for that, we understand sometimes things happen. It's really just a phone call to us so that we can check your numbers, recalculate, as well as get the required documentation from you to paper trail that change so that there are no delays going forward. And talking to your mortgage officer early about anything like this is what's going to help keep your process going. So communication is key on both sides to help avoid any delays.
Great, thank you, Summer. Barb, I will direct the next question to you. If you would just please tell our guests about some of the specialty loan programs we offer here at First National Bank Alaska.
Thank you for asking. First National Bank offers a number of specialty programs, and we're fortunate we are an Alaska Housing approved lender. And that enables us to offer some of the specialty programs that Alaska Housing offers, such as first-time homebuyer loan programs that allow for low or no down payment and reduced interest rates. They also offer rural programs and uniquely Alaskan programs because they understand the rural areas of Alaska where an outside lender may not. And those properties sometimes are very unique. The renovation loan program is also offered for purchases and refinances. And that loan program allows for upgrades and renovations to an existing home. And we do offer those on a case-by-case basis at this time. So you should ask your mortgage specialist for more details and if the property you're looking at fits that project. First National Bank also has unique relationships with some local nonprofits throughout the state who offer down payment assistance programs. NeighborWorks Alaska offers up to 20% in the form of down payment to assist home buyers, those first-time home buyers of low and moderate means, and they serve many areas of the state. Cook Inlet Lending Center offers down payment assistance as well, and they offer this 20% of the sales price down payment assistance, and they specialize in serving Native Alaskans and Native Americans. They serve the Seri footprint. Alaska Community Development Corporation here in the Mat-Su administers the Home Opportunity Program, and that loan offers up to $30,000 in down payment assistance, and a portion of that loan is forgiven over time. Fairbanks Neighborhood Housing serves the Fairbanks North Star Borough area, and they also administer the Home Opportunity Program. And they also offer a down payment assistance program with up to 20% of the sales price for down payment. So these programs all have income and asset limitations. And to find out more about these programs, you should talk with your first mortgage, your First National Bank mortgage specialist to see if any of these programs might be right for your situation. And so I'll turn it back to you, Louis.
Great. That is some great information.
Oh, excuse me. Summer, I'm sorry. I forgot one little section here. We offer some other great programs, and Summer, you're prepared to talk about those. Thank you.
I am. Barb, thank you so much for that. Other than the great programs and partners that we work with to get some assistance and specialty programs completed for eligible customers, we do, through the bank, First National, offer a few specialty programs for eligible buyers. As an Alaska State Bank for 100 years this year, First National is dedicated to those in our community, such as our military service members, current and past, our rural Alaskans, and our Alaska Native families. The bank recognizes the importance of how our local military is so crucial to this state. We're actually honored to have a local branch located on Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in the PX commissary parking lot there. So we're proud to offer one of my favorite programs, the VA Home Loan Product. And the benefits that it offers our veterans and current military personnel, such as 0 down on 1 to 4 family units for primary residence, of course, closing cost limits that limit what the buyer or veteran can pay, keeping their cost lower at closing, as well as no monthly mortgage insurance or private mortgage insurance, which is a great monthly savings in the payment as opposed to other types of programs. For our Alaska Native communities and our families, we do offer the HUD 184 program. It was created in 1992 by the government to help facilitate homeownership between Alaska Natives as well as Native American tribes in the lower 48. There is a list of over 800 tribal affiliations for Native Americans on HUD's website, hud.gov, but all Alaska Native entities and corporations do qualify. All that you need to do that program is to have a tribal ID with a membership number or a letter from the tribal entity, as there are a few Alaska corporations that don't issue a membership card. It has a low down payment of 2.25% on the purchase price, or as low as 1.25% for those purchases where the loan amount is less than $50,000. It also has reduced monthly mortgage insurance options, keeping that payment low. Lastly, we offer the Rural Development RD program through the USDA, which is the U.S. Department of Agriculture. This product is a zero down payment and is offered only to certain areas located in rural communities outside of Anchorage and Fairbanks. And it does have income limits. So please reach out to us and let us know if you have any other questions on this or any of the other specific loan products that we offer. Thank you, Barb.
Summer and Barb, thank you both for more information about those great programs. We do have some questions coming in from our guests today. And so first question I'll ask, and I'll let folks decide who wants to jump in and take this, but what are today's rates and what trends do you see coming in the future?
I'll take that one, Lewis. It's a great question, especially in recent events, especially over this last week. But rates right now in 2020 have obviously jumped up significantly. The 30-year mortgage rate is tipped over 5% in April for the first time in a little over a decade. But if you look historically over the last since about the 70s or so, you can see the average 30-year mortgage rate is right at about 8%. So why today's rate, especially in 2020, they feel like they're definitely a lot more expensive than they had been over the last decade. Historically, it's still a good deal if you're getting a mortgage rate in the 5%, even the 6% range. None of us have a crystal ball. There's a lot of uncertainty going on in the financial world recently. So, what trends and what's going to happen in the future? I guess everybody's got their own guess as far as that goes. But, I'd say right now, rates are still comparatively a good deal as compared to what we've seen over the last, 20, 30 years.
Great. Thanks, Jim. Next question. This is a fun one. We get this one a lot. So why choose First National Bank Alaska over the online banks who are promising the best rates today?
Yeah, I'll be happy to take that one, Lewis. Thank you. So online promises are about as guaranteed as 2-day prime delivery. As an Alaskan lender who just celebrated our centennial, it's safe to say that we hold deep roots and have established relationships with the people and the resources in our communities. Having these relationships is an advantage over the online lenders because our personal connections allow us to be more in tune with the momentum of our local industry. Title agents, insurance agents, realtors, we're all friends and family in this community, and we look out for one another. We are Alaskans helping Alaskans navigate the unique Alaskan path to homeownership, and that is why you choose a local lender.
That's a great response there, Kaylin. Yeah, appreciate that. And yeah, as I mentioned early on, having 600 employees right here in Alaska with 28 locations, 19 different communities, and really having a great understanding of Alaska, it goes a long way. So next question we have here from the audience. I know somebody who qualified for a loan that was less than they could actually afford. Why is that? And is this something that could affect my loan as well?
Hi, Lewis. I'd be happy to take that question. When folks do their budget, sometimes they're used to paying more than what the income we can use to qualify them for a mortgage. So that can impact why they might feel that they can afford more. There may be other income sources into the household that we can't count, such as self-employment income that may not have a full 2-year history, or commissions, seasonal part-time jobs, maybe some sort of other family members that live in the household, and we can't use that income. So for the mortgage qualification, we have to look at the income that is going to be stable for the term of the loan that our underwriters would consider as being stable. And that's usually a 2-year history of any kind of any of those supplemental type incomes, or that self-employment income. And so that can be part of the impact of why folks can afford more or feel they can afford more. Thanks, Louis.
Great, thank you, Barb. Great answer there. Next question we have here from the audience. Can a property be disqualified for financing?
Hey, Louis, I'll take that one. Believe it or not, the answer is yes. So a lot of times, especially when you're purchasing a home here in the Anchorage area, if you're pre-qualified, I'd say 325 or less. Oftentimes, you're going to be purchasing a condo, and that condo will have to be on the FHA approved list. It will also have to be on an Alaska housing list if you're using that loan program. So those are 2 reasons that a property could be disqualified for financing. Then there's these other little nuances that a lot of people may not be familiar with. Is there any broken windows in the home? Are there any holes in the wall? Is there flooring on the ground? Does the siding come into contact with the ground? There's all these unwritten rules that could disqualify a property. So that's why it's best to work with your lender partner and a realtor to make sure you're not finding yourself in a tough situation. Thanks, Louis.
Thank you, Linwood. Appreciate that. And it looks like that wraps up the questions that we have from our guests today. So thank you to the guests for those thoughtful questions, and to our mortgage panelists, our mortgage experts. Thank you again. I am going to quickly put on the screen. This is some information, the contact information for today's panelists. So if you are looking to follow up with them, ask any questions that you might have, please don't hesitate to give them a call. You can also visit our mortgage lending webpage that we have, and this is where you can go to get more information about some of those specialty loan programs that were discussed today. You'll find the application on there that you can start to fill out and get online. And you'll also find not just today's panelists, but some other members of the mortgage team. We do have a number of mortgage loan originators throughout the state, so you can take a look at the different locations that we have there. And then finally, as I mentioned at the beginning, today's webinar was recorded. And so if you'd like to go back, revisit any of the information that was presented in the next day or two, that should be posted there. And so this is the webpage that you can follow. And this is also the webpage that you can take a look at to watch for future webinars that we have. We host these Workshop Wednesdays webinars every month. And so be on the lookout for the next topic that we have there. July's webinar will be on investment management. And so we'll have more information there. So again, thank you to everybody for attending today, for your thoughtful questions. Thanks to our panelists. And again, take care.